Hello? Unheard Phantasm here with something a little different. Originally this was going to be a response to the Ask Me Anything video I did about a month ago, but I feel I should expand on that after thinking about a few of my answers. That said, this video will be me talking about a few things regarding my views on certain subjects in the Tales community, or maybe Tales in general. If you want to skip to the Ask Me Anything itself, I'll leave a link for that in the description. But I feel I should get this off my chest. First of all, I would like to state the world we live in is a very critical one. One that is always ready to shred apart an unpopular opinion. One that dismisses certain interests as shit taste. One that makes those with voices feel that they should not put their words to use. But an unopened gift serves no purpose. It brings no joy to the recipient. It becomes a waste to that which holds the gift, and said gift becomes a burden. In short, I know there are people who are going to disagree with me. I know there are people who will probably go 5 minutes in and click the dislike button and close it, but I feel I should say this anyways. Even if my reputation, even if my integrity as a channel is diminished as a result. However, I would like to state, before anyone jumps on that dislike button, anything I say here is not meant to be malicious in nature. It's meant to help. It's meant to be helpful in nature. It's meant to be helpful to us as players, to the viewers, to the community. If agree or disagree, I very much value your opinion. If you go and put a comment in there, I will answer. If you have any questions regarding any of the things I say, I will make sure to clarify myself in the comments as clear as I possibly can. That said, let's get started. The first part I will discuss is the fine line between confidence and ego. This part is actually in response to Vicent's question on the Ask Me Anything. How did you get so godlike with Luger? My original answer was, I'm not godlike. I don't even think I'm all that great. But then I thought, he must have thought I was somewhat good at least to ask such a question and hold me in regard. But despite my views on the whole thing, simply answering it like that wouldn't serve much of a purpose. Don't worry, Vicent, that's not the answer I'm going to throw at you. I'm not going to be like that. But I feel that before I get to your question, I should explain why I think the way I do. Anyone who knows me personally knows that my self-esteem is not the best. But to be honest, it's more of a side effect of my philosophy. I've never sat well with people who boast they are the best. I feel that their actions speak miles louder than their words do. And if the time comes for them to speak, one should be humble. I know that's a word that's foreign these days, and I'm not just talking about this community, the world by and large. You know, people are always ready to put themselves on a pedestal. And for me, I may be the odd sheep in this, but humility is something I honestly try to find the balance of in my daily life. When confronted with a question regarding skill, I appreciate that kind of thing. But I suppose a more apt answer, aside from saying, oh, I'm not that great, don't call me godlike, I don't think mastery, someone being a master at something, actually exists. I think you can always learn more. Even think about Zero in Smash. The guy, he's always on. He's always trying to learn new things about matchups that he may have difficulties against. You know, not just Smash, any fighting game, anything like that. You can always learn more, even when you feel you're at your peak. there's always something you can learn to sharpen your craft, improve your game. And, you know, you could get rusty in some areas if you neglect them, so you may even have to go over some things that you thought, oh, I already had that on point. You may have to go back. It's a journey, not a destination. The day you actually stop learning new things is the day that you die. So when I see people say, my run is the best whatever run on YouTube, I just shake my head, because that's not the point. Now, I know I use fighting games as an example here, but something I feel I should also state right out in the open: this is not a competition. I do not compare my Luger run to Victor's, to Clip's. I don't compare my run to anyone. My run is my own. I am improving myself. I'm not doing this to say I have the best Luger on the web. That's not what this is about. But yeah, I mean, I think I've covered enough on that. An amazing example of someone who really gets this, I think, is Mucktails. Now, I know I said I would not call out names, but I am pointing him out in a positive light. I feel that he can serve as an example, and I mean, like I said, anyone can benefit from the stuff that I'm saying here. Even me. I'm not without my own faults. I'm not, when I say this stuff, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal saying, oh, I'm humble. That obviously makes me better than you guys from a moral standpoint. That's not what this is about either, because there are some things I need to work on. I'll state right out before going on to the Muck thing. I have a nasty habit of making judgments about people before I know them. That's something I really have to fix. There are a few friendships that I burned the bridges on just because I could not trust somebody, or I snapped too much at people. But yeah, I should have stated that before I started this part. My bad. Anyways, Mucktails. I think he's a good example of someone who, they know they are great, but from my personal experiences dealing with them, I have not gotten a single tinge of superiority from him. He never sounded condescending, or if you could ask him, you know, think about probably like the stupidest question you could ask in Tales of Graces. Like, I don't know, even something super vague, like, how do you do a 25 hit combo into Stampede Slash? The guy will probably answer it. He won't, you know, look down on you like, why are you asking me this nonsense? Go bug somebody else. Or he won't give you he won't make you feel dumb for asking something like that, even though he probably knows, even though he definitely knows that and miles more. I mean, I will always remember the line that sold me regarding his character. His character, I'm not talking about Cherry, I'm talking about Muck as a person. He doesn't believe in the concept of skill. I stated that I don't believe in the concept of someone being a master, but he takes it a step further. It isn't skill that defines a person, or their performance, I should say. That's gained through knowledge and effort. Now, that probably is what skill means to a lot of people, but I won't speak for the man. However, I will leave his words up here, since I don't feel I could get the point across in my own words, honestly. But yeah, let's go on to the second part. No, bouncing off from what I said about this isn't a competition, I feel that there are many things we could learn from each other as players. And some of those things, and for certain players, it may be many, because perhaps their level of knowledge or skill is higher than others. Many things may not be so obvious. It may not be visible to the naked eye. Perhaps someone's newer to the game and they want to learn how this works. I personally say I welcome it. That's why I'm trying to find different ways of listing combos, whether it be notations in the descriptions or annotations in the video itself. But I digress. I remember when I was first starting out with Luger, I was wondering how, because I came in late to the game. I was wondering how some of the players that were already known, you know, how they were able to do what they did. Now, it's been a while since then, so I can't go into the specifics, to be quite honest with you. But there were some things, some parts of Exilia 2, or maybe just Tales in general, that I was just not clear on. And I would go and ask people. And I would go and ask people how this is done. But here's the thing, I was never given a clear answer. I was always told stuff like, watch more closely, try watching it again, see if you could figure it out that way, or you'll figure it out soon enough, things like that. And it got to the point where I realized I was just being annoying to those people. I didn't want that, and it made me feel, I guess, scared to ask for help. It got so bad where I was told that I was just bouncing off of them for fame. That I was pretty much told, your intentions, you unheard phantasm, your intentions for asking me this stuff, you just want fame. You don't care about the skill. And that hit me hard. Now that I have come a ways to where some people are actually watching my videos, and I could do things, I can help people if they ask for it. I don't want to be dismissive. I don't want anyone who comes to me to feel like they can't ask a question. No matter how dumb it sounds, you can't compare your mind to somebody else's just because you're incredibly experienced and this question may sound like child's play to you. You cannot go and put that thought into someone else's head and say, it was easy for me, why don't you just do it? Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they honest to God don't know how. They say the difference between a noob and a scrub. A noob is simply just slang for someone who is new. A scrub is an inexperienced person who does not wish to learn. Now, I mean, the term noob, it's been pretty much it's universally known as a negative connotation, but that's not what I'm using it for here. Instead, I will say someone who is new. Someone who is new as compared to a scrub. To be honest, I don't know of any scrubs. I don't know of any scrubs in the Tails community, so if I see someone calling another runner a scrub, and I know that that person is not a scrub, I'm going to be looking at the person who made such an accusation with disdain. Anyone who I have talked to who has asked a question on my channel, honestly, they've had a pretty decent reason for asking it. And even if I didn't think they did, I would answer it anyways. Because in my opinion, it's not my place to judge. And even if this goes back to the case that this is not a competition, that said, I have no reason to not share my knowledge, to not share what I know. Besides, all that will do if I don't tell them. If I tell them, no, you're bugging me, go away, or why don't you figure it out yourself, that's going to put a very sour taste in that person's mouth. It's going to have some bad blood between us. Then they will learn if they still have the desire to go on, provided you didn't scare them off and end up providing toxicity to the community itself by potentially driving a potentially great player away. If they do end up sticking around and learning, they're not gonna... things are still gonna be bad between the two of you. Now, to be honest, I'm kind of past that. I don't really have any ill will towards anyone. Not anyone in this community, at least. But I feel like the story I'm telling right now is something that I can use as an example for those who are faced with similar situations on either side. Just think twice before answering a question. Everyone thinks these days, that's a dumb question, whatever. I'll just ignore it or tell them to screw off. No. Now, I mean, if someone's shit posting, that's one thing. If they're obviously just, like, shit posting or they're trying to, you know, rile you up, that's one thing, but don't be so quick to drive people off. Here's one last example before I close this out. Even in fighting games, a medium that is dedicated to being competitive by nature, the name of that genre is fighting games. Two people going up against each other in a competitive environment. They have matchup threads. I'll probably pull one up for the video, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. In these matchup threads, mains of one character. For example, in BlazBlue, I main Kagura. So I can go to the Kagura thread and look at various matchup threads. The Kagura forum, I mean, and look up various matchup threads. And I can go and click on Kagura versus X character, or Kagura versus Jin, is something I'm currently studying. And the players in that group, other Kagura mains, will talk to each other. Okay, this is what I learned against Jin. 5C is safe against X move. But here's the thing. While I was looking at these threads, Jin mains, keep in mind, these are the people that we're fighting, that we're learning how to beat. They come into our thread, and instead of saying something like, you're never gonna beat us, we're obviously higher on a tier list than you, or some dumb mess like that, they say, you know, feel free, as Kagura mains, feel free to provide any information to our thread. We will come in and Tell us what you know. You know, we can learn a couple things from you guys. It's a give and take scenario. Now, of course, you don't have to do that. But what this does is this makes a stronger player base. Now the Kagura mains know a bit more on how to face Jins, and Jin mains know more on how to face Kagura. This makes a stronger player base because now both players come in with more knowledge, more ways that they can, more tools at their disposal, or more ways to use those tools to outsmart their opponent. And I think that's what Muck was talking about. I think that's a good example of what Muck is talking about, where it isn't necessarily skill so much as knowledge. You can be good, but if you don't know how to use your tools, you're not going to get very far. And like I said, this is fighting games, the genre where people are naturally competitive, or people are even more so than our community, very thirsty for the spot at the top. Now, if they can put aside their pride and, you know, tell other players how they can beat them, how they can exploit our weaknesses, then how can we, who isn't even a competitive community, Tales are single player games, outside of ACS or something, you're not going to be going up against other players. Outside of those, how can we go and turn away people who just want to learn more about the game? Anyways, I hope my rambling was at least somewhat coherent. I had a script for this, but I deviated far too many times to count, to be quite honest with you. So, yeah, I'm just going to get straight to the Ask Me Anything that I owe you all before I can sign off. Now, first up is the aforementioned Vicent question, where I would like to say that I covered a good amount of it in the previous two parts, but something I can tell you that I did not cover in there, or perhaps I didn't cover it clear enough in there, is look for anything of interest in your character and just let your imagination run with it. Like, if you find a move that's underused that you don't see many other players using, why don't you try to find some uses for it? Like, I see Earth Spike for Luger as an example being used solely as an ender, as a combo ender, and even then, it's not very often used. I try and find a couple ways to make that used as a combo extender. Currently, I'm trying to find different ways to use Endless Waltz as a combo extender. There are a lot of moves, and this isn't just for Luger's arsenal, but there are a lot of moves for almost any character, if not every character, that have more uses than those that have been discovered. Now, another thing, this all goes back to the lab. I'd like to think about the times that I was at work a year ago. I was working as a delivery boy, and the job was pretty boring, but it paid well. And on many days, right as the day was nearing its end, I was thinking, you know, just to pass the time and keep my brain moving, I was thinking, no, what if I use these moves in succession? What if I, you know, use Swift Strike on a small enemy, and it makes the enemy go behind me, which sets up for a Bubble Blast setup. Something like that. Or what if I use mind collapse like this? I think I have a couple of those videos still lingering around on my channel, but those were just like small little combos I did even before I got my capture card, where I just wanted to see what I can do. And just try to figure out things. And personally, I think you, Vicent, you have shown quite a few interesting things with the what was the gliding and some of the I think it was a step cancel thing you did. It was some tutorial you did not too long ago in the Tales of Destiny, and that was pretty dope. I will give you props on that. I'm not sure if it was common knowledge or something, but that was very, very interesting, and I'm glad that you showcased it. I have never even played that game, and I found that quite interesting. And I'm sorry if that's not the most, you know, concrete and clear answer. So, I mean, if you still have any further questions regarding that, I'd be completely fine with answering them. Now, your other question was, what games are you most looking forward to this year? And as for those games, I plan on getting God Eater Resurrection and Rage Burst on Steam. I believe they come out in August, late August, like right when my fall semester classes start. And I'll probably get Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator. But outside of those two games, I need to save most of my money for college. So yeah, I hope I answered your questions well enough, especially the former, because I'm not even sure how clear I was with saying this. Kazamna asks, what's your favorite Tales base art or level 1 tech? Now, all memes aside, it's a close tie between Tiger Blade and Falling Snow. Falling Snow is already very apparent on my channel for how integral it is to my style of play, but it's perfect for evasion. It has amazing hit stun and can even AC reset on a standing foe. Plus, it's an amazing positioning move. Many setups you can do with it. It's one of those arts where it's obvious what it does, but even just with the tiniest look, you can find about 10 more uses for it. And just looking even deeper into it, you can find about 30 more. It's like one of those arts that are very simple, but have endless possibilities. Tiger Blade, on the other hand, is more of an underappreciated art, at least in Exilia 2, but it's known to be a very solid art in the series overall. It just like Falling Snow, it's a simple looking art, but I wouldn't say it's very obvious what you can do with it, especially in Exilia 2, where at first glance is overshadowed by Crimson Fury and Swallow Flight, but it's still a very good positioning tool, and you can use it for evasion, but it's just reputation of being one of the most reliable arts in the series. Like, if you see a character in a Tales game and they have Tiger Blade, chances are that move is going to be solid, and you're going to be using it a lot. So, yeah. That would cover my favorite base arts. Frubam asks, any real-life hobbies outside of gaming, and how often do you do them? I sometimes draw stuff, but really that's every once in a blue moon. I've had artist block for quite a while, and it's slowly been getting better. I've been taking more art classes at college. I can really only draw stuff if I'm like just straight out told to sit here and draw, and I think I do a decent enough job, but very rarely do I actually get to like draw something to my own volition and have it come out great. But I have a DeviantArt. I'll leave it in the description in case you're curious. I have like a couple of just doodles I drew of Luger and freaking Fractured Mila. And what's the BGM? As of the time of recording, I don't know what the BGM will be. But if you're referring to the BGM on the previous video, I will leave that in the description of this one. If that makes any sense. Usually I'm pretty good on these, and I feel I should credit any music I use anyways. So, that's my reasoning. Thank God for description boxes. But yeah, I slacked on the last one. I should have put it in there anyways. The reason why I'm not saying it right now, and I'm just going to leave it in the description, it's a song from Fire Emblem Fates, and I know the name, but I do not know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to look like a massive retard on here. My voice is already bad enough. Mr. V asks, what's the origin behind your username? Any other favorite characters aside from Luger? And do you think Titri is cool? Well, I went by a couple of names in the past, but I suppose you mean Unheard Phantasm. I was a rather soft-spoken kid when I first got into Tales games, so one day a friend of mine gave me the alias Unheard Phantasm due to my inability to be heard. I was practically invisible whenever I would talk to some of my friends, and when I did speak, everyone was like startled if they actually heard me, and they were like, who the hell was that? Oh, it's just him. Jakun, which is the name I'm currently going by, was just me being a weeb and taking the name Jock and adding an honorific at the end and trying to be fancy with it. Honestly, my whole reason for changing my username is because I like to think I'm a much better and stronger person in real life than I was before. I've always been pretty gloomy for the most part, so me changing that username is kind of a way of me trying to shed my past self off, like how a snake sheds its skin. But at the same time, I still use that name sometimes, because on some websites I can't even change the name, and on others it's mostly just for consistency, so people don't get confused and they know, oh, this is still him. As far as favorite Tales characters go, Judith. Personally, I am a big fan of aerial combat and jack of all trades characters, and Judith and Luger pretty much fit these bills perfectly. Plus, seeing Judith play, specifically Swillow's Judith, on YouTube is what initially got me into the Tales series. That's why Vesperia is still hailed as my favorite Tales game. One of these days I want to do that character justice and get a run out. That's one of the things I hope I will do before I stop uploading Tales videos. Titri's cool. Personally, as far as fighters go, I prefer the People's Champ. You know, the man, Kong Man. But Titri's solid. I don't know anything about Tales of Rebirth, but from what you've shown me, he's pretty damn cool. Homura asks, not counting Luger, who's your favorite Exilia 2 character? What's your favorite color? How good are you from a Homu to fan scale? What is your favorite Luger art? And what is your favorite Judith art? My favorite Exilia 2 characters would be Ivor and Fractured Mila. I mean, you said aside from Luger. But, I feel they were both kind of wasted potential. I think Ivor could have been a good playable character in Exilia 1, if we're being honest. But the existence of Luger pretty much means that Ivor has no place in the playable characters list, since Dual Swords is already taken now. And Fractured Mila, I mean, I feel that her death was just kind of shoved in as a way for suspense, but I liked her as a good foil for Luger in general. Plus, I mean, Fracture Mill is a much better girl than Nova, but that's just me. My favorite color is black, but gold, red, and white come close. I'm unaware of this scale, of this Homu to fan scale you speak of, but I'm gonna go with 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. If you asked me the same question months ago, I would have told you 0. I'm assuming this scale, the lower the number, the worse, so I think that's a good thing. I already covered my favorite Luger arts in Kaz's question, but aside from those previous 2 that I mentioned, Mind Collapse is one of my personal favorites. It's another one of those underrated arts. Everyone uses Bubble Blast, and I am trying to use that more, but very rarely do I see just usage of that, and I found pretty good mileage of it in recent bosses on my Luger run, even though it's one of those arts that has a really bad recovery time. As long as you aim it properly or just set it up, it should cover its own weaknesses very well. And my favorite Judith art is Moonbeam. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it, depending on height and weapon usage. With the stave, with staffs equipped, you can like backstep or jump cancel it, and that's pretty cool. And depending on height, you can even bait text. RR did a recent Judith video that showcased that rather well. I quite enjoyed it. But yeah, that's my favorite Judith art. And last but not least, we have Vic. Other than Exilia 2 and Vesperia, what are some other Tales games you would like to run at some point? And do you have any challenge runs, any plans for challenge runs of non-Tales games, aside from the L-Sword stuff you've done in the past? Well, I mean, there's the obligatory Day 1 Aizen. Nah, I'm just messing around. I'd like to give Velvet a shot if Berseria is actually good. Personally, I still think it's too early to make that call, especially with free run being mandatory. But so far, aside from that, the game's looking pretty decent. A lot better than Zesty, in my opinion. But aside from that, Hubert in Graces, he's been on my list for quite a long time. And Rondeline in Narakiri Dungeon X, or Narakiri Dungeon Cross. Dear God, I hope I didn't spell that wrong, or pronounce that wrong. But it's going to be a while before I can even touch that game. I've seen just how much Matt went through just to get his Mel videos up. So yeah, it's probably going to be, if I do NDX videos, it'll probably be like the last Tales game I play on this channel. But I would like to do them at some point, do not get me wrong. Non-Tales games. I want to do stuff for Okami and Odin Sphere. Specifically Oswald and Odin Sphere, because that's my boy. But I'm not sure if people would want to see that. It's very clear that this is a Tales channel first, and I personally don't care too much about views and likes, but I don't want to clog people with videos they don't want to see. So I at least infer from my analytics that this is a Tales channel most of the time, unless it's something particularly good, I guess. People aren't really going to bat an eye if it's not Exilia 2 or the occasional Vesperia from this channel. And I mean, I've led everyone to believe so far this is only going to be Tales stuff, so that's understandable. So I'll probably upload that on a side channel. I'm not sure. But yeah, those are some things I'd like to do if I get the chance. And with all that said and done, I thank you all for surviving my voice this long. And just participating in the Ask Me Anything for those that did. And if you came in, you weren't aware of the Ask Me Anything, or you still want to ask something, I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm not going to make another talk video about it, but I'll answer any questions you have in the comments. And if you have any feedback, anything you'd like to say from, you know, just from hearing me talk for, what, I don't know how long this video is going to be, 30 minutes, 45. Do not get me wrong, I will answer anything. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good one, and I will see you guys next time. Before I forget, I should be having Luger stuff up within the next week. I'm trying to do something a bit different with files and the character episode bosses. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, have a good one. Thank you for watching, all that good stuff. And yeah.